Hi, I'm Afton Brazzoni, founder of Scribe National. As a marketing and communications studio, we're passionate about storytelling, and today I'm really excited to be talking with someone who shares that passion for storytelling. Kristy Wolfe is a photographer and medical mom based in the Canadian Rockies, and we're going to be talking today about what she's been up to over the past few months and what's next for her business. So, how are you doing lately, Kristy?
Things are getting better. Today in Canmore, it felt almost back to normal. There were people out and the restaurants are open and it felt a little different than it has in the past. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Oh, that's great. So before we dive too far in, can you just tell everyone a little bit about yourself and about your business?
Yeah. So my family moved here to Canmore in September. Prior to that, I was a grade one teacher in Edmonton, Alberta, and storytelling photography was kind of my side gig. I started doing a lot of photography with my son when he was born early. So he was a NICU kiddo. We ended up in hospital for 54 days at that point, and then we had a heart surgery at the age of 1. So a lot of my photography built on documenting our family story and being able to share it with our extended family, but also to have it for us for down the road. And so, yeah, we moved here, and getting a teaching job in the Rockies is a little harder. And I just thought, let's make a go of photography. So here we are.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, you definitely have a really interesting story. So, can you tell us a little bit about how your work has changed over the past few weeks or months, really, now at this point? And I know you've been doing a really interesting project called the Front Steps Project. So, yeah, maybe just talk to us a little bit about that.
So my photography has always been a storytelling side of things, or documentary family photography. So I have shot for Ronald McDonald House families for years. I tell stories for families in hospital, and I think it's really important for caregivers to see themselves in their story. And we really learned that this past year when Kane had another heart surgery, and we had a photographer there with me at that stage, or with our family, for 48 hours. And seeing those photos has really changed the way I think about our journey. And so coming here, I mean, there's wedding photographers, there's all kinds of photographers in Canmore and Banff and the Bow Valley, but my passion has always been about hospital photography. And so I was trying to figure out how that could work. And I think my big goal is to make documentary family photography, whether that is in hospital or at home, something that's accessible to medical and special needs and palliative families, because I think those are stories that are missing. Also, with my background as an educator, I talk about photography in schools and how you can use it to share student learning and move students forward. So that's a couple things that kind of are the background of where I'm coming from. So I was building my business, I rebuilt my website, I was really focusing on how do I make this a realistic goal, and then COVID came. And I think that when this Front Steps project got passed along to me, a friend of mine mentioned it, and it's a project that was actually started in the United States, and a ton of photographers took it on. And you basically, I just put it out there. I'm going to photograph people in front of their houses. It's kind of come as you are. I'll just be there for 5 to 10 minutes from a distance. And it was just a way to spread a little love. I did it for a couple families I knew, and then they mentioned it to people, and I ended up doing 100 families in the Bow Valley. And it was so important for me during this whole quarantine. My kids are at home, so we're 24/7. My kids are there, and that has been really interesting. Even though I was a grade one teacher and I have a grade one son, I never wanted to homeschool my kids. So I needed an outlet, and this was a really good opportunity to just connect with people, and to do something that they then had like a moment in time of their family. And I know a lot of people, as I was photographing, were saying things like, you gave me a reason to shower and get dressed today. Like, we've been looking forward to this. And so it felt really good to be able to do that. And then the sessions were pay it forward. So whatever you could do, support a local charity, do something kind for a neighbor. It didn't really matter. It was just the idea that put it out there and let it spread. And so it's definitely saved my mental health over the last little while.
Yeah, I mean, it resonated with people so much. I saw that it made the news, or the Town of Canmore Facebook page had it on there as well. And, I think what you said about how, like, you were homeschooling, you kind of needed something. And obviously, it was giving that back to others as well. Like, people needed something, a reason to shower, as you said. um, and yeah, I think just that sense of connection, it obviously resonated a lot with people.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I wasn't the only photographer in the Bow Valley doing it. There was at least four of us doing this project. And each of the other photographers were photographing 70 plus families or individuals. So it was a lot larger than just what I was doing. But the project has kind of gotten a bit bigger now because Arts Place and the Canmore Museum have gotten behind it. And Amy Herr of the Canmore Museum is now doing audio interviews with all those people so that they have kind of snapshots in time of what this was like for families and for individuals. And now with Arts Place support to connect us to different groups, the Bow Valley Immigration Partnership is getting on board. And so we've got funding to do more photographs for, this group is going to be foreign-born Canadians, so another 30 sets of photographs and interviews for that. And then there's a number of other groups that we're looking at, just making sure we have the diversity of the community. Because one of the things the town of Canmore was doing with their Stop the Judgment campaign was just like trying to open people's eyes to who actually lives in the Bow Valley. And there was some concern that as COVID was shutting everything down, people were not realizing that others were actually their neighbor, assuming that they were coming into town. And so they were really trying to have this campaign of just like the diversity of who lives here. And then it's becoming a bigger project. There's a lot more people that are looking at how do we tell this story of this time and how do we capture this time for people, and just that idea of resilience and supporting your community. So it's really exciting with what's going to happen. It's just kind of snowballing into something bigger.
That's amazing. I actually didn't know that some of those developments that you had mentioned with it, and I'll be keeping an eye out for sure. That's fantastic. So, obviously this has turned into something really positive for you. What advice would you give to other business owners who are kind of still trying to weather this storm, either in photography or not?
Yeah, I think the big ones are taking care of yourself. We've now been in this for a while. I think most people have kind of figured out a way to survive this right now. And hearing from different people, some people are really finding it's a chance to work on their back end. Some people are coming up with new ideas about how they're going to move forward. Other people are really looking at like what's important and how do I prioritize those things moving forward. So I think like just that, take this time to figure out what you want. Like, I know we're all just scrambling to try and figure it out. And it does feel like this next step is going to be another full pivot of what happens next. But I do think it's also giving people a lot of opportunity to think about what is really important in their business and how they go forward with it. And so that's one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about, just kind of setting those boundaries about what is important and what do I want to focus on and where do I see my business down the road and how do I make that happen without taking on all the pieces that maybe I don't need to. Maybe there's more than I needed happening, and there might be times where I just need to say no to some of those things so I can focus on what really matters to me. And for me, that is getting families together. And what worries me right now is that along with COVID, the government here in Alberta has made huge cuts to education, and specifically the PUF funding, which is the program unit funding for early education. And so the families that I know and that I work with are seeing huge changes to what life is going to look like, even when COVID is over. So I think that's also in the back of my mind. How does all this stuff play together, and how can I use my photographs in the way I tell the story of life with a medically fragile child or a special needs child, so that we can kind of give people a glimpse into that, so that maybe we can rock the boat a little and find some ways to get some of that funding back.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a time of huge change. And like you said, even though certain things are, you know, starting to feel like they're getting back to normal. We're, I think, definitely on the edge of another pivot. And yeah, I certainly hope that I know that you'll continue to be doing great work and making contributions. So I guess on that note, what is next for Kristy Wolfe Photography? And maybe also just let people know how they can connect with you online.
So right now I'm teaching a course at Arts Place about personal photography projects, because that is really how I've built my own photography business. It's just the projects I've done through the years. So this is the first run of the course. We're doing it online through Zoom, but I have a feeling I'll get to teach that course again down the road. So keep your eyes open for that. The campaign hashtag Meet the Locals BV is where you will start seeing some of those photographs. We haven't kicked it off yet. And I know this is a project that happened a few years ago that it's kind of, they're reinstating it. So Meet the Locals BV, stories of resilience through Arts Place and the Kenmore Museum, and then in partnership with quite a few other organizations will start coming around. And then for me, with what's happening in healthcare and education, I really want to get back in and start telling stories for families that are dealing with those areas. And so that's where I hope to be. I've got a mini course about how to tell your own story, because one of the ways that I think that people can get information out there to the government and to MLAs is by telling your own story, and photographs definitely help with that piece. And so I've got like a quick 7-email mini course about how you can tell your story through photography. So people that are interested in photography, that would be great. If you are isolated in hospital or at home, it just gives you something to think about and focus on that's a bit more positive, but that's also documenting your story. As for where you can find me, Kristy Wolfe Photography is my website, so kristywolfe.com, kristywolfephotography.com. I'm on Facebook as Kristy Wolfe Photography and Instagram as kristy.wolfe. And yeah, I'm all over.
Awesome. Well, that's fantastic, Kristy. Thank you so much for coming on here today and sharing. And I'm really excited to see everything that you're going to be doing in the next while to come.
Thank you.
All right. Well, take care.
Thanks, Captain.